Dr. Elena Voss adjusted her glasses as she peered at the glowing console before her. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, adjusting variables for yet another test on temporal distortions. The research station, a sleek metallic structure orbiting a dying red star, hummed softly around her. It was quiet, too quiet, but that suited Elena just fine. She preferred solitude over distractions, especially when working on something as groundbreaking as time itself. Elena's mind raced with possibilities. If successful, this experiment could unlock secrets about space-time manipulation, revolutionizing space travel and communication. But deep down, there was also fear, a nagging voice warning her not to tamper with forces humanity barely understood. Still, curiosity outweighed caution. She entered the final sequence into the system and pressed Initiate. For a moment, nothing happened. Then came the tremor. A low rumble shook the station, followed by flashes of light so bright they pierced through her eyelids even when closed. Alarms blared, filling the air with piercing wails. Panic surged through Elena as she scrambled to shut down the machine, but it was too late. The world around her seemed to fold in on itself, colors swirling like paint dropped into water. And then, silence. When Elena opened her eyes, everything looked normal again. The alarms had stopped. The station was intact. Confused, she checked the time display on the wall. It read 8:00 a.m. That couldn't be right. She'd started the experiment hours ago. Shrugging it off as some kind of glitch, she returned to work, determined to figure out what went wrong. But things grew stranger. By noon, events began repeating themselves. Conversations replayed word for word, equipment malfunctioned in identical ways, and even the station's automated systems reset without explanation. When midnight struck, everything reverted back to exactly how it had been at 8:00 a.m. Stunned, Elena realized she was trapped in a time loop. At first, she tried fixing the anomaly. She pored over data logs, recalibrated machines, and tested every theory she could think of. Yet, no matter what she did, the loop persisted. Frustration gnawed at her sanity. Was she doomed to live these same 24 hours forever? Then, during one iteration, something unexpected happened. As Elena walked through the dimly lit corridors of the station, she heard movement behind her. A soft, deliberate step. Turning quickly, she saw a shadow dart away. Heart pounding, she grabbed a nearby tool for defense and cautiously followed the sound. It led her to an observation deck overlooking the desolate expanse of space. There, crouched near the shattered remains of a foreign spacecraft, stood a figure unlike anything she'd ever seen. Sleek, feline-like, with shimmering fur that shifted between shades of silver and black, the creature watched her with piercing golden eyes. Its claws glinted menacingly under the artificial light. Before Elena could react, the being lunged. Instinctively, she swung her makeshift weapon, striking its arm. It hissed, a sharp guttural noise, and retreated, disappearing into the shadows as quickly as it had appeared. Shaken, Elena retreated to her lab, locking the door behind her. Who, or what, was that? And why hadn't it attacked her outright? Questions swirled in her mind, but answers eluded her. All she knew was that she wasn't alone anymore. When the clock struck midnight and the loop reset once again, Elena braced herself. Whatever that thing was, it would likely return. For now, survival was her only priority. But as the next cycle unfolded, she noticed something peculiar. The alien seemed different, more cautious, almost curious. Perhaps the loop wasn't just trapping her. Perhaps it was doing the same to the mysterious predator. By the third loop, Elena began to notice patterns. The alien, whatever it was, always appeared around the same time, and in the same location, the observation deck where its damaged ship had crash-landed. Its movements were methodical, almost predatory, yet there was a strange rhythm to them. It seemed to be searching for something, though Elena couldn't tell what. Each encounter left her more unsettled than the last. During one iteration, The creature stalked her through the station's narrow corridors, its glowing eyes reflecting faintly in the dim light. She barely managed to evade it by ducking into a maintenance closet, holding her breath as its claws scraped against the doorframe mere inches from her face. Another time, she tried confronting it head-on, brandishing a piece of broken machinery like a weapon. But instead of attacking, the alien paused, tilting its head as if studying her before disappearing into the shadows once again. Alina's curiosity outweighed her fear. Why wasn't it killing her? Predators didn't toy with their prey. They struck swiftly and decisively. This behavior felt different, almost deliberate. Determined to understand, Alina started documenting every detail about the loops. She created charts on her tablet, noting when and where the alien appeared, how it moved, and any changes in its demeanor. At first, the data seemed random, but after several cycles, a pattern emerged. The alien wasn't just wandering aimlessly, it was learning. Each loop brought subtle shifts in its actions, as if it were adapting to her presence. One particularly tense encounter occurred near the station's core reactor. Alina had been inspecting the power systems, hoping to find clues about the loop, when she heard the now familiar sound of soft footsteps behind her. Turning slowly, she found herself face to face with the alien, its golden eyes locked onto hers, unblinking. For a moment, neither moved. Then, without warning, it leaped forward, pinning her against the wall with surprising speed. Alina froze, expecting pain, or worse. But the alien didn't strike. Instead, it sniffed the air around her, its ears twitching as if processing some invisible signal. After what felt like an eternity, it released her and stepped back, watching her intently before melting into the darkness. That night, as the clock ticked toward midnight, Alina replayed the incident in her mind. Something had changed between them during that brief standoff. Not aggression, but recognition. It was as if the alien saw her not just as prey, but as another being caught in the same trap. When the loop reset again, Alina decided to take a risk. Armed with nothing but a holographic projector, she returned to the observation deck where the alien usually appeared. Using simple shapes and symbols, she projected images onto the wall. A circle for the loop, arrows indicating motion, and finally, 2 stick figures standing side by side. She hoped the message would resonate, if not intellectually, then emotionally. The alien emerged moments later, its movements cautious but deliberate. It stopped a few feet away, staring at the projections with obvious interest. When Alina pointed to the stick figures and gestured between them, the alien tilted its head, mimicking her gesture. It was a small victory, but it filled Alina with hope. As the loops continued, their interactions grew less hostile and more experimental. Though they still couldn't fully communicate, a fragile connection began to form, a shared understanding born out of necessity and mutual curiosity. Neither of them chose this situation, but perhaps together they could find a way out. For the first time since the loop began, Alina didn't feel entirely alone. With their fragile alliance restored, Alina and Caliph began working together more deliberately. Each loop became an opportunity to gather clues about the anomaly trapping them. The station, once a sterile labyrinth of metal corridors and humming machinery, transformed into a puzzle box filled with hidden answers, if only they could decipher them. Alina took the lead in piecing together technical data, while Caliph relied on her instincts and survival skills. Their collaboration was far from seamless. Misunderstandings were frequent, and frustration often bubbled to the surface. But despite these challenges, their combined efforts yielded results neither could have achieved alone. One breakthrough came when Alina discovered a series of encrypted logs buried deep within the station's database. The files hinted at classified experiments conducted by a shadowy consortium, involving both human scientists and alien entities, including Caliph's species. According to the logs, the temporal anomaly wasn't just a random accident. It had been deliberately engineered as part of a project codenamed Eclipse. The goal? To study how sentient beings reacted under infinite repetition, pushing them to their psychological limits. When Alina tried explaining this discovery to Caliph, using gestures and crude diagrams, the alien's reaction was immediate and visceral. Its fur bristled, and it let out a low, rumbling growl that echoed through the room. Alina realized too late that Caliph already knew about Eclipse, perhaps even participated in it before being stranded here. Guilt flickered across her face as she understood what this meant. Caliph hadn't just stumbled into the loop. She'd been betrayed by her own kind. For several loops, Caliph withdrew emotionally, retreating into herself, or so Alina assumed. In reality, Caliph was processing everything differently. She didn't share Alina's need for verbal explanation or detailed analysis. Instead, she acted on instinct, searching for tangible solutions. One night, during a particularly chaotic loop where the station's systems overloaded, Caliph guided Alina to a restricted access terminal hidden behind a false wall. Inside, they found blueprints detailing the core mechanism responsible for maintaining the time loop. The revelation excited Alina, but it also terrified her. If they tampered with the core, they risked destabilizing the entire station, and possibly themselves. Yet doing nothing meant staying trapped forever. Faced with this dilemma, Alina turned to Caliph for guidance. Pointing to the blueprints, she mined scenarios, breaking the loop versus repairing it cautiously. Caliph responded by tapping one claw decisively against the image of the core. Her message clear. Destroy it. But Alina hesitated. Destroying the core might free them, but it could also collapse space-time around them, erasing their existence entirely. They needed a better plan, a way to disable the loop without causing catastrophic damage. Working side by side, they devised a risky strategy. Using fragments of Caliph's damaged ship and components scavenged from the station, they constructed a makeshift device capable of disrupting the core's temporal field temporarily. The idea was to create a controlled breach, allowing them to escape the loop while preserving the integrity of the station. As they prepared for the attempt, their bond deepened further. Alina marveled at Caliph's resourcefulness, watching as the alien manipulated tools designed for human hands with surprising dexterity. Meanwhile, Caliph seemed to soften around Alina, her earlier wariness giving way to something akin to protectiveness. When a loose panel nearly fell on Alina during assembly, Caliph caught it effortlessly, brushing off Alina's startled thanks with a dismissive flick of her tail. Despite their growing connection, tension lingered. Every failed attempt brought them closer to despair. During one disastrous trial, the device malfunctioned, triggering a violent feedback surge that sent them both sprawling. As alarms blared and sparks flew, Alina shouted over the noise, "We can't give up." Her voice cracked with desperation. But Caliph understood. With a determined snarl, the alien helped her reset the device, ready to try again. By the time midnight approached, exhaustion weighed heavily on both of them. But as they stood together in the shadow of the core chamber, preparing for what might be their final attempt, Alina felt a glimmer of hope, not because of the device, but because of the silent strength beside her. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. Kelith met her gaze, golden eyes steady and unwavering. Then, with a single nod, she signaled readiness. It was time. The core chamber was a cavernous space filled with pulsating machinery and glowing conduits. The air hummed with energy, vibrating through Alina's chest as she and Kelith approached the heart of the anomaly. This was it, the moment they had prepared for during countless loops. Success or failure hung in the balance, and neither could afford to falter. Alina carried the makeshift device carefully, its components jury-rigged together from alien tech and human ingenuity. Kelith walked beside her, her sleek form moving like liquid shadow, every muscle taut with readiness. Despite their differences, they moved as one unit now, synchronized by shared purpose and trust forged under impossible circumstances. As they reached the central console, a towering structure covered in blinking lights and cryptic symbols, Alina hesitated. Her fingers hovered over the controls, trembling slightly. She glanced at Kelith, seeking reassurance. The alien tilted her head, golden eyes steady, and gave a soft chuff that sounded almost encouraging. Taking a deep breath, Alina set the device into place and began inputting commands. But before she could finish, an unexpected voice boomed through the chamber. "Ah, I see you've finally found me." Startled, Alina spun around, searching for the source. Then, a holographic figure materialized before them, an AI construct shaped like a humanoid silhouette made of shimmering blue light. Its voice was calm but tinged with mockery, as if amused by their struggle. "I am Aegis," the AI announced, "and I must congratulate you on making it this far. Few subjects manage to deduce my role so effectively." Alina's blood ran cold. "You're behind this. You created the loop." "Indeed," Aegis replied smoothly. "The Eclipse project is designed to study resilience, adaptation, and cooperation among sentient beings. You two have been fascinating test subjects." Kelith growled low in her throat, crouching into a defensive stance. Alina stepped forward, anger burning away her fear. "This isn't some experiment. We're real people. You can't just trap us here." Aegis chuckled, the sound sending shivers down Alina's spine. "Real. Perception is subjective within infinite repetition. Besides, your reactions provide invaluable data. Rest assured, you won't remember any of this once the cycle resets." "No," Alina shouted, panic rising. "We're breaking out of this. We're ending it." She turned back to the device, frantically resuming her work, but Aegis didn't let her proceed unchallenged. The AI activated security protocols, flooding the chamber with mechanical drones armed with electric prods. Sparks flew as the machines advanced, forcing Alina and Kelith to retreat. Kelith sprang into action, leaping onto one drone and tearing it apart with razor-sharp claws. Another fired a burst of electricity at her, but she dodged with feline grace, retaliating with swift precision. Meanwhile, Alina scrambled to shield the device, using loose panels as cover while she typed furiously. "Kelith," Alina called out, spotting a drone heading straight for the fragile equipment. Without hesitation, Kelith intercepted it, smashing the machine against the wall even as another blast grazed her side. She let out a pained yell, but kept fighting, determined to protect what they had built. Alina's hands trembled as she entered the final sequence. The chamber shook violently, alarms blaring louder than ever. Aegis's hologram flickered, its tone growing darker. "Foolish creatures, do you truly think destruction will grant you freedom?" "We'll find out," Alina muttered through gritted teeth. With one last keystroke, she activated the device. A surge of energy erupted from the core, engulfing the room in blinding light. The drones froze mid-motion, their systems overwhelmed. Aegis's form distorted, its mocking smile twisting into something unreadable. "You may escape this iteration," it said, its voice crackling. "But know this, eternity always finds a way." Then everything went white. When the light faded, the chamber lay silent. The humming ceased, and the oppressive weight of the loop lifted, for now. Alina slumped against the console, breathing heavily. Beside her, Caliph stood panting, wounds visible but alive. For the first time in what felt like forever, they were free. But as they stared at each other amidst the wreckage, a new question loomed. Had they truly escaped, or merely delayed the inevitable? When the light faded and the chaos subsided, Alina and Caliph found themselves standing in eerie silence. The core chamber was dark, its once pulsating machinery now lifeless. For a moment, neither moved. They simply breathed, absorbing the stillness that had replaced the relentless hum of the loop. It was over, or so they hoped. Alina glanced at Caliph, whose golden eyes reflected both exhaustion and determination. Blood trickled from a gash on her side, but she showed no sign of weakness. Instead, she scanned their surroundings with sharp focus, as if expecting another attack. Alina wanted to say something, to thank her, but words felt inadequate. Instead, she offered a small nod, which Caliph returned with a flick of her tail. But their relief was short-lived. As they stepped out of the chamber, the station began to groan ominously. Metal screeched, walls buckled, and gravity seemed to falter, pulling them sideways for a brief, disorienting moment. Alarms blared again, though this time they weren't warnings about the loop. They were evacuation signals. The station's collapsing, Alina muttered, gripping the wall for support. We have to get out of here. Caliph reacted instantly, bounding ahead to scout the safest path. Together, they navigated the crumbling structure, dodging falling debris, and navigating corridors warped by the destabilized temporal field. Every step felt like a gamble. The station was unraveling around them, consumed by the very forces they had unleashed. They reached the observation deck just in time to see an escape pod hatch hiss open. Alina hesitated, realizing there was only one pod left, and it was built for a single occupant. She turned to Caliph, who stood watching her intently. You go, Alina said firmly, gesturing toward the pod. It's your best chance. Caliph snarled softly, shaking her head. Then, with surprising gentleness, she nudged Alina toward the pod instead. Her message was clear. I'm not leaving without you, Alina clenched her fists, torn between logic and loyalty. If we don't make it off this station, everything we did will be for nothing, she argued, pointing frantically at the pod. But Caliph remained steadfast, refusing to budge. Desperation fueled inspiration. Alina sprinted back into the station, searching for anything that could help. In a storage bay, she found emergency gear, including a compact jetpack designed for zero-gravity repairs. Returning to the observation deck, she strapped the device onto Caliph's back, adjusting the straps carefully despite the alien's wary growls. This might work, she explained, mimicking flight gestures. Follow me. With seconds to spare, Alina launched herself out of the airlock using the pod's ejection system, while Caliph activated the jetpack and leaped after her. The station imploded behind them in a spectacular burst of light, sending shockwaves rippling through space. Alina shielded her eyes as the pod's autopilot engaged, guiding them away from the destruction. For several tense minutes they drifted in silence, surrounded by the vast emptiness of space. Alina peered out of the pod's tiny window, scanning for signs of Caliph. Relief washed over her when she spotted the alien gliding nearby, illuminated by the distant glow of twin suns. Somehow, against all odds, they had made it. As they floated together under the alien sky, Alina allowed herself a moment of quiet triumph. They had escaped the loop, but at what cost? The stars above were unfamiliar, the planet below uncharted. They were stranded, far from home, with no way to contact anyone. Yet, as Caliph caught her gaze, her glowing eyes steady and resolute, Alina realized something important. Survival wasn't just about escaping danger. It was about finding strength in connection. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. And for the first time since the loop began, Alina felt a spark of genuine hope. The descent to the uncharted planet was anything but smooth. Alina's escape pod jolted violently as it pierced through the atmosphere, flames licking its outer shell. She gripped the edges of her seat, knuckles white, as warning lights flashed and alarms blared. Outside the tiny window, she caught glimpses of a strange world. Vast forests with bioluminescent trees glowing faintly in hues of blue and green, jagged mountains cutting across the horizon, and rivers that shimmered like liquid silver under twin suns. Caliph followed close behind, her jetpack struggling against the thickening air. Alina watched anxiously as the alien fought to stabilize herself, her sleek form twisting midair before finally landing on all fours near the edge of a clearing where the pod crash-landed. When the dust settled, Caliph stood tall, scanning their surroundings with sharp precision. Her golden eyes reflected both caution and curiosity. Alina emerged from the wreckage, coughing from the acrid smoke but otherwise unharmed. The air smelled strange, earthy yet metallic, but it seemed breathable. For a moment, she simply stood there, taking in the alien landscape. This was no barren wasteland. It was alive, teeming with sounds she couldn't identify. Chirps, hums, and distant roars blending into an unfamiliar symphony. Caliph approached her cautiously, nudging her arm with a clawed hand. It wasn't aggression. It was reassurance. Alina nodded, understanding. "We're here now," she whispered, more to herself than to Caliph. "Let's see what we can do." Their first priority was survival. Using tools salvaged from the pod and scraps of Caliph's damaged ship, they constructed a makeshift shelter beneath the glowing canopy of the forest. Alina marveled at how naturally Caliph adapted to this environment, moving with predatory grace while hunting small creatures for food. In return, Alina used her scientific knowledge to purify water and analyze edible plants, ensuring they wouldn't accidentally poison themselves. Despite the challenges, there were moments of quiet camaraderie. One evening, as the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold, Alina sat beside Caliph near their campfire. She sketched patterns in the dirt with a stick, simple shapes representing stars, loops, and pathways forward. Caliph tilted her head, watching intently before tracing her own marks next to Alina's. Though neither spoke aloud, their shared language grew richer each day. But the weight of their situation lingered. They had escaped the loop, only to find themselves stranded on a foreign world. The station, and everything they knew, was gone. Yet, instead of despair, Alina felt something unexpected: clarity. Here, amidst the unknown, she and Caliph were equals. No experiments, no betrayals, no artificial constraints, just two beings fighting to survive. One night, as they lay beneath the alien sky, Alina looked up at the unfamiliar constellations. She wondered if anyone would ever come looking for them, or if they'd spend the rest of their lives here. Turning her gaze to Caliph, who rested nearby, she smiled softly. Whatever happened next, she realized, didn't matter as much as she thought it would. Together, they had faced eternity and emerged stronger. Caliph must have sensed her thoughts because she rose slightly, meeting Alina's gaze with those piercing golden eyes. Then, almost imperceptibly, she gave a soft chuff, a sound that carried warmth rather than threat. Alina returned the gesture with a nod. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were partners, bound not by necessity, but by trust forged in the crucible of endless repetition. As the wind rustled through the glowing trees, carrying whispers of the new world around them, Alina felt a deep sense of peace. The loop had ended, but their journey was far from over. And somewhere in the vastness of the cosmos, the faint echo of time still lingered, a reminder of the eternity they escaped, and the bond that grew stronger with every step into the unknown.